camera.
Okay, right now what we're looking at, I put in a new installation for the Start Soma show, and it's a completely new departure for me out of character work into my tree work. It's basically organic work on paper with epoxy resin, so it can be translucent, and we can actually back project through it. It's a step into actually organic sci-fi work with a street background. What other questions do you have?
How many installation pieces have you done?
This is actually the first installation piece that I've done. I have about 10 more in the works, and this is the first part. This is the first time anyone's seen it out live, and it's kind of marking the transition from just doing work on walls, on canvas, into more of like an elaborate outskirt, bringing my art to organic work with grass. And
how do you think this is going to affect the rest of the work?
Affect the rest of my work. It's making me think in more three-dimensional. I'm looking into sculpting and different things to actually bring my work off of canvas, off the walls, and also work with things that I can actually project and work with film installations, taking things to a whole different dimension of producing art for people, and not necessarily just another character looking in a different direction. Something where I actually work on different scenes and can create scenes and make the actual atmosphere of a place as opposed to just being backdrop, something on the wall. Right now, I'm a technical illustrator and a graphic designer on the side, and then I also paint.
And you have one of your paintings behind you. Tell
Yes.
us about that.
This series I did about a year ago, and I'm very transfixed with angels. I met an artist when I was 15. He was a very substantial element in my life. I was working at a cafe and I was drawing in my sketchbook. We were a very slow cafe, and this guy showed up with a sketchbook or a photo book, and he went through it with me, and he sat down and he was like, "You're an artist, let me show you my book." We're flipping through this book, and it's these beautiful images, kind of abstract, of angels. And I was just like, what's the story with this? And when he would flip over the page, on the back would be a Polaroid of him with the person he painted the picture of. And I was just like, what's your story? And he'd been traveling for a number of years, and basically his story was he would go town to town, he'd show people his book, and he would say, "I'll paint you one of these paintings if you put me up for 2 months and you feed me." And he's like, yeah, and it's worked for him. He had pictures from all over the world. And he gave me just a really great piece of advice. He said, if you turn everyone you meet into angels, your world is full of angels. You have enlightened people everywhere, and you can always travel back, and you've brought that element of them out. And so over the years, leading up to this, but almost every character that I actually paint has a halo. Usually it's very abstract. For a lot of people, I use a lot of cubism and different things, but whenever I meet certain people or a group of people, I tend to go home and paint them or draw them. It's my take on them. It's completely whatever I get, but I try to pull the light out of them, and I don't know, I mean, the angel side of them. So this was part of a series that I did on plexiglass. And I mean, they were very abstract. I just liked the material, working with very raw material and acrylics, having parts of the sign bleed through. So that's pretty much.
What are the numbers?
The numbers were actually on the signs. And I picked out certain signs because there's actually 7, and I named it 7 Angels because I believe 7's a very powerful number. It comes up in a lot of my work. And so each of the pieces have different numbers that really correlate that I kind of tried to keep within the chest, which when I backlight them, light comes through and it glows. So different ones have different numbers, and I tried to stick to having 1 through 7. So.
Who is that of?
This right here is somebody I met a while ago. He was an artist who really turned me on to going after like more my soul side. He was a photographer, and he came into my house one night during a party, and he just gave me this really big spiel about like how much I should be into artwork. He saw some of my sketches and different things of mine, and I wasn't a full-time, about a year and a half ago, I wasn't really a full-time artist. And he was really one of the people that pushed me to go after this full time and actually put my heart and soul into it. So I would say there's definitely a big shift. The obstacle right now for a lot of the artists in the city is that there's a big shift. There's a large amount of one-off shows, one-night shows. Some weeks there can be up to like 4 to 5 group shows. It's become kind of oversaturated, and a lot of artists are trying to figure out how they can actually make money off of this and take it more professionally when they're having to hang a lot and they're having to show a lot to build a name. However, they're still trying to figure out where that's going to take them. I mean, there's a major focus right now, I feel, on San Francisco. A lot of great artists here, and it's become not necessarily competitive. Everyone's very community-oriented. Everyone helps each other, gets each other into shows. But at the same time, everyone's a little frustrated right now, that I've noticed amongst a lot of the artists I show with putting a lot of effort into showing a lot and building exposure, and there's not enough focus necessarily on the art and how people are going to push it to another level as far as creating a life out of it, which, you know, the party can only go so long, and you have to have some kind of substantial payoff for the work that you put in. It's definitely a little frustrating for a lot of the artists right now, and it's I think to the point where the artists are starting to actually question it, and it's going to bring about a change. Which, I mean, we had to work really hard to get the focus to change here to be an art scene, which was very much needed, and now it needs to go to another level. And I feel like a lot of people are trying to figure that out right now, how to take it to the next level. More exposure. I've talked with you before about this, but like, you brought up something really poignant, and I really thought about it for a while. It's just, there's no one really writing about what's going on here other than the people amongst the websites and different things that really play off each other and help build the community. But outside of there's a lot of people that still don't know about it, which I think is a big struggle for a lot of urban artists and a lot of emerging artists right now. There's, as much as there's a saturation in the city right now, there's a saturation of websites across the country that you can pay to put your art up. I mean, where would people go to find stuff? And I think that everyone we need a voice. We need something to take it to another level, like something to actually bring exposure. And maybe it's just bringing the community tighter and everyone trying to work on something a little more focused than just let's have 4 parties a week and everyone try to get out there as much as possible. So,
Who do you?
I mean, just over the last year, I've had definitely like a large amount of learning curve to get over with art. I've definitely noticed I've sold prints. I've done a lot of different hand prints and different things with resin where I can actually do multiples of my work. When people own something original, there's just a different feeling about it. They own something that cannot be reproduced. There's just something, there's a joy in people that they've actually connected, and a lot of people actually think that they're investing in you. And it's more than just the painting itself, it's the connection that they got from the painting and the fact that they believe in your work enough to help you. Because, I mean, every artist is out trying to get the same amount of money. There's certain people that invest, and a lot of it comes down to people investing in you and believing in you. And the more people that are into you, the more it pushes you out there to be able to produce even better work and larger work. And so people have to have an idea that you will go somewhere. They're putting their money in you almost like in any other company. It could go somewhere. You know what I mean? They have to see that spark in you. And I've noticed a mixture of that and then people that just really love to have something original. Something about it connected with them, and they want that piece. I really want to work as many different ways of getting out expression as possible and touching people. I mean, I've already painted so many paintings that it's not necessarily fully like, you know, the greedy, like I'm doing this for myself. I mean, there is a connection with people. And I think I'm at a young age where I've tapped into what people want to see, how to work with people, do it realistically, and give people something in their life. Like if it's an album cover, if it's something that promotes anything, there's a lot of different angles to creating. And I think I've noticed a lot of artists locally starting to become designers, web designers. I also produce websites. I mean, there's a lot of different functions that art can produce. And I don't know, it becomes almost infinite what you can do with it, which is totally inspiring to me. You know, 5 years ago, thinking about sculpting was something like, oh, well, I'd have to just be a sculptor. And as I get older, I'm realizing that there's so many different things that you can be. I mean, it's really endless, and it's however you can keep dreaming. And the more that you're in that mode, it's like the more that you're in your studio, the more you produce the dream. You keep pulling from an endless source of energy that you don't know where it came from. And it becomes almost addictive to be in that point. That's where most artists become totally recluse. You're in that moment and you're touching something that's beyond you. And I think that that's where every artist wants to be professionally. If it's design work, if it's photography, anything. And so you want to be in that moment as long as possible and be able to touch the essence. And it can come in any form throughout your life.